Hello everyone, I'm delighted to be invited to talk to you all at Giant Health this year. My name is David Riley. I run a training company called Let's Learn Digital, and in this presentation I'm going to examine what I consider to be the most important innovations for global pharma companies to adapt their digital strategy to maximize success in 2022. So let me examine and share some of my slides. So we are going to examine how global pharma companies can adapt digital innovation to maximize success. Just a quick introduction to us and what we do. Let's Learn Digital are a training company. We are based out of the UK, and we do three things. We design training in digital strategy around problems, around challenges, and this is for the global pharma companies, including marketing, commercial, strategy, medical affairs. Secondly, we also design training in emerging technologies, again, to solve problems like speed, problems about changing the culture, problems about using immersive technology to reach HCPs in specific therapy areas. So our emerging technology includes areas like VR, augmented reality, AI, the Internet of Things, the metaverse, obviously really important right now, chatbots and blockchain. And then thirdly, we do writing and research and digital maturity audits to understand customer needs. So this includes things like gap analysis reports or competitive reports. So that's what we do. There are two things that I guess make us stand out: is embedding learning into the culture. This is really important, I think, within the pharma companies, because we know that things are changing so fast. We know that the pandemic has seen this massive shift in behavior, so it's really important that learning is embedded right into the core of the culture of your company. So let's look at this quote on the screen. The single biggest driver of business impact is the strength of an organization's learning culture. So that's really important in terms of generating success and inspiring understanding and encouraging staff to apply their knowledge. Obviously, it's great to learn about these concepts, but applying it is the real golden strategic purpose we try to encourage. The other thing we're very keen on is interactive and using the virtual capabilities that we're all familiar with, such as Zoom, such as Microsoft Teams, to encourage interaction, discussion, polling, capturing opinion, and also think using tools like real-time translation. Really important if you're a pharma company in Asia in particular, is having a real-time translation service. So we use all these features of these tools to really make the training that we deliver interactive and very much focused on the learners, so that they can interact and capture their opinion about certain subjects. So let's get onto the subject. What will be the most disruptive technology in this post-pandemic world that we are living in? So this is just a bit of research I'm sharing with you from Pharma Intelligence from 2021. And as you can see here, quite conclusively, AI, and we include machine learning, was the emerging technology that had the greatest impact in the pharmaceutical industry in 2021, as indicated in this graph, with 36% of the 198 surveyed pharma industry professionals. And we are also seeing this area of interest for AI and machine learning to really improve efficiency, things like automation, things like chatbots, interacting with HCPs using chatbots. But obviously it's a really big area of impact potentially with with AI and machine learning. We're seeing AI now coming into the sphere of predictive analytics and the use of augmented reality to visualize information and accelerate the visualization process, and use this kind of tools to really understand what's going on. So certainly right at the forefront, but close behind that is areas like big data, and as you can see, social media as well. We're seeing this, I guess, this movement with things like virtual congress. You're seeing this explosion of younger HCPs, maybe the younger under 40-year-olds, using Twitter and these interactive, real-time interactive devices integrated with events like virtual congress. So that's a big change that's going on. You can also see things like the emergence of the Internet of Things, cloud computing, and a bit lower down, but one that I believe is really important, is virtual reality and augmented reality. And of course that leads into the whole metaverse explosion. And we'll show you some examples of how that is being used in the pharma industry right now. Also, robotics and potentially blockchain. Blockchain can be used to provide more transparency in the supply chain. We can use certain protocols to see and improve efficiency and reduce the challenge of medicines not getting to where they need to get to. So all these things are disrupting the way in which we maybe did our day-to-day jobs prior to the pandemic. So how do we harness these emerging trends to the best of our advantage, and which ones do I believe are the most significant in terms of our future strategy going forward? So let us examine firstly this AI and machine learning. As we saw in that graph, this is predicted to be the area of real interest for pharmaceutical industry. So we can see that in the area of patient diagnosis, AI provides a much ability for smarter, faster, and safer decisions. So in the training that we create, we show our trainees examples of how AI can be used in the area of diagnostics. And we examine case studies of how that can be deployed and what sort of results we can expect. And ideally, depending on the time that we have with our trainees, we create exercises of real life scenarios in your therapy areas so that the learners can really apply the learning. This is just showing you an example of a system developed to optimize the quality of care by using AI for promoting evidence-based decision making. So you can see there in that interface, it's using the power of AI to really visualize that information and provide more coherent insights into the diagnosis of patients. This is a fantastic innovation that has huge opportunities across multiple different therapy areas. So this will make it faster, will make it smarter, it will provide more safety in the diagnosis process. AI offers fantastic opportunity for supporting sales performance, and one of the leading companies in this that I'm showing you is a company called Okra, based in the UK, and they have developed an AI system for pharma company field staff to harness the AI, the smart AI, to improve just the whole business performance. That includes things like giving their salespeople information on client history, suggestions, predictions on optimal rep performance. This is an interesting way of how AI can be deployed effectively commercially, and you can see there in the tablet screen how it's visualized, how reps on the go can use this tool to really provide insight and improve the performance by 20 to 30%. That really makes a difference to the commercial sales of a business. So that's another way in which AI is massively improving the commercial performance of global pharmaceutical. Machine learning, we're seeing lots of use and experimentation of machine learning in areas like neurology. This is just showing you a visual example of how machine learning can be used in this therapy area. So we know that in modern clinical practice, we have this challenge of an ever-expanding volume of clinical data. So machine learning offers a really efficient way to process and extract meaningful insights from this huge pool of data. So neurologists in particular are using the power of machine learning to provide more precise information. You can see here in the image, the example of how it's being used in imaging to provide more precise and interesting insights in clinical practice. This is a really exciting area of application for this technology. So again, within our training, we will familiarize ourselves and examine examples of this, and so that the learners are not just learning it from a surface level, but they're really getting their teeth into it to really understand how it can be applied into their business area, into their therapy area. This is really important, a really vital part of our training is the application, the actual impact it's going to have in the workplace. So we really need to spend time developing the content so that it's meaningful, so that it makes a difference when the learners go back to the office. We've seen this experimentation and use of AI in areas like chatbots. This is growing increasingly. We probably are familiar with the use of chatbots in non-health and pharmaceutical areas, like with dealing with our financial services companies, or with Q&A in booking an airport ticket. So more and more the use of chatbots is becoming more common for automating some of this process. So this example here is showing you an example of how that can be applied by this is a pharma company called Norgine, and they developed a pharma brand patient chatbot, and quite simple. It's a Q&A chatbot called Ava, and it makes it easier and more convenient for colonoscopy patients to ask questions to get simple answers to those questions. They have combined this particular case study. It was combined with advertising on their website. Now, the key thing about chatbots is that once you experiment with chatbots, you can find you can get real rich data around the sort of questions that HCPs or patients will ask around a therapy area. That can be hugely beneficial in terms of other marketing activities. So not only is it providing a more efficient way to communicate with either patients or HCPs, but you're capturing a huge amounts of data. So in terms of this area of our training programs, what we have done in the past is actually invite participants to actually design a chatbot. And we do this, we sometimes go to Amazon's office to use the Alexa device to actually enroll in their non-developer course, to encourage learners to actually learn how to develop the Q&A, the conversation interface. And the reason we do that is the learner will learn a huge amount more from actually doing it themselves. Obviously, you don't need to be a programmer or developer, but it's about understanding the user experience, understanding the device, where the patient and where it fits into their journey. And so that gives us insights about the usefulness of it. So chatbots, really useful. Lots of other areas in which chatbots can be used in terms of, if you're a big pharma company, obviously with internal comms, that's being explored. You can buy enterprise tools for that. Areas like adverse reporting, there's a lot of experimentation in there, but I think this is a really good opportunity. We've seen in the pandemic a lot of data coming through that HCPs are not available to answer questions until late in the evening. So often they'll submit questions about adverse reports from patients late in the evening. So a chatbot is a great way to provide a personal communication when maybe pharma companies are not in the office. So that's an area that we might want to think about. We talked about automation, but this is another area of interesting innovation that I think is going to be seeing a lot more investment. So this can be automation and things like identifying, tracking, evaluating negative outcomes of drug therapies, and the use of pharmacovigilance, very useful to provide more speed in this area, applying the AI, applying innovative technology and automation to capture this sentiment and process it quickly and get it to the right people quickly and fast. So that is a very interesting area of development, and I think again we're seeing a lot more investment and results of experimentation. So that is a key part of our training is this area. And also, we've seen a lot of partnerships. Partnerships is quite interesting because a lot of the big pharma companies will hold their hand up and say, look, AI is not the area where we have traditional expertise. So this is just showing the example of Novartis with a partner with Ada Health. And Ada Health is a brand I absolutely love myself. I think they have brilliant expertise in AI interfaces. So if you want to I really recommend downloading the Ada app. It's fantastic, and they offer assessments backed by AI algorithms, and what they've done is incredible. I think they've really designed a fantastic, intuitive design interface with their chatbot on mobile device. So you can download that for free, and it'll give you a really good example of how AI can work. But going back to the original point of what I'm saying, you're seeing a lot more partnerships. So again, with our training program, we encourage the module that we do on emerging technology will include an examination of startup ecosystems. So here in the UK, there's 2 or 3 ecosystems. We might go to them physically and actually meet some startups in our therapy areas. So part of our training is actually connecting and encouraging learners to actually find communities, startup communities in your therapy area and learn from them, because that gives you a fantastic kind of vision of the future. And we're seeing a lot more international pharma companies who are either setting up their own accelerators like Pfizer, or they are looking to partner. If you're a smaller size pharma company and you want to partner with a startup, that's a great area to find out what's going on with technology in the future. What are the patient needs? Startups are very clever at knowing that, and they love these sort of partnerships. So that's something that we do explore in our training. So that's AI machine learning. I think that's a real interesting area to start. We can start in our training. We often try in small steps. We'll start with something like chatbots by examining Alexa and creating our own chatbot, and then we'll move to more serious and more embedded areas of AI, depending on the learning competency of the learners. But that's a really interesting area. And related to AI is, of course, data. Let's have a look at data and see how that can make an impact to the business strategy for pharma. Visualization, really exciting areas, how visualization can help HCPs and clinicians and analysts make quicker decisions and join up the dots with data. So the network, the visualization, the use of tools like Power BI is faster, it's getting easier, and this is a skill that's really in demand. And I think it's really important to have these types of skills in our business so that we can reveal patterns, correlations, gaps, anomalies, and make the research much better to understand what's going on. And I've seen myself a couple of really amazing startups in augmented reality in this area in the UK, and it's really exciting what you can do. Look at the interfaces of data molecules and what's going on. So I think the data visualization area is a real area of innovation. That's an area that we really do examining close detail in our training. And of course, related to that is, again, startup tools that are providing more real-time data tools. This is what I absolutely love, is Airfinity, and they use real-time data to support social media sentiment analysis. So I'm just showing you two slides of what they do. So they can find influencers and they can start to examine the sort of topics that those influencers, those HCP influencers on Twitter. Let's take 200 influencers on HCP influencers might be based on their authority, the number of followers they have. So if we examine the sort of conversations they are having about a therapy area like oncology, we can start to build a picture of what their interests are, what the challenges are. That's brilliant insight, and this tool does exactly that. You can see at the bottom they provide a kind of weekly analysis of what's going on. If you have a specific interest in a profile, a geographic area of the world, or an age group, this is a brilliant tool. I absolutely love it because of its real time, its impact, and I think it's groundbreaking. So this is where and I'm showing this because this is what we will really examine in our training, and we keep the content up to date. This is quite a new emerging company that's come out of the pandemic. It's done really well, and it's new. This is something that probably we didn't know of 5 years ago. So it's really important for us as a company, for Let's Learn Digital, to keep all our content up to date so that the learners really understand how these tools can make a difference. What are the latest tools right now? So they want to know that. They want to know how it can be used for social media sentiment. They want to know how these conversations are happening with HCPs around therapy areas. It's all happening in real time on Twitter now, today, this moment. So we need to know that. We need to be connected with these people and extract more insight and present it in visual ways that can be fully understood. This is an example that I was just sharing with you. It's an augmented reality use of extracting data and visualizing it. And you can see with augmented reality, this is the HoloLens, Microsoft HoloLens. I think he's got the HoloLens 1 headset, but with the new updated HoloLens 2, yeah, it's really powerful. And so this is a startup that allows HCPs to visualize the data using your hand movement. You can see there on the images. We can make sense of how that data is being is interacting with by using technology like 3D visualization to capture deeper insights into the interplay of different parameters. That's really exciting, and scientists are loving this. And of course, with the pandemic, you can use this type of technology in remotely. That's a big advantage. So AR, augmented reality, can enable data visualization to be more dynamic, fuel more creativity and the creative instincts. So if we are someone who's interested in data and we have a creative bent, this is a real tool for you. And I think in terms of trending and the future, I think this is a real area of opportunity. So again, we do examine this in the training syllabus we do. So that's give you a bit of a taste of what's happening with data. Again, data overlaps with AI and machine learning, really exciting area of development. I think it's a big opportunity to learn and empower our staff to see the possibility with things like visualization tools right now. Fantastic. So we're going to talk about examining blockchain. Now that, obviously there's a lot of talk about blockchain, in particular NFTs. We're not going to talk about that, but let's just remind ourselves what blockchain is. Blockchain is a distributed, decentralized, shared ledger. Kind of like, I like to describe it like a remote Excel spreadsheet, and it records all the transactions that can be programmed to record any data of value. Now, it records all that information in kind of order, and it can't be tampered with. So if, for example, we have a health record that's located in multiple different locations, it means that it can be seamlessly integrated across different points in the supply chain, and it means that it can't be tampered with. So it's very coherent, it's very up to date, and that provides massive transparency. If we're looking for a doctor who needs data quickly, needs the latest information, so we can we can probably understand that, with the pandemic, there were a lot of supply chain issues. We know that looking back. I can see that with PPE here in the UK, there's massive supply chain issues. So this is where blockchain can really potentially solve those problems. So again, within our training, we do examine blockchain. So it's about empowering the learners to really understand what it is, and by examining health pharma related case studies, we can start to better understand where it can be used. And on that point, a lot of it is just getting familiar with the language, because when it's often new, it doesn't feel familiar, and we might be a little bit scared. So it's about getting comfortable with the language. This is a consortium. So a consortium involves a group of companies, and often that's a way in which we can test the potential of blockchain. So this is one consortium that's fairly new. It was launched in January 2020, called PharmaLedger. That includes 29 member blockchain consortiums. 12 global pharma companies are included in this. And the purpose of this is to examine supply chains and clinical trials and health data. They have isolated 3 areas where they really want to explore blockchain to solve and improve efficiencies in these areas. So this is a 3-year project. It's sponsored by one of the EU-backed Innovative Medicines Initiative and the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations. And as you can see here, the blockchain specialist from Novartis, who's involved in this, has said the approach we take at Pharma is one that enables us to have 2 dimensions and speeds in addressing challenges of healthcare. So it's very much an experimental group to really see and understand how blockchain can be used in solving these problems, and then sharing the findings. So a lot of these companies will be coming together, be working essentially in partnership through this protocol. But I think it's quite groundbreaking in terms of everyone coming together and sharing and seeing the results that might come through. So that's really exciting. So again, you can actually go on the website and actually see this. If you go into the PharmaLedger website, or please email me directly and I can help you to see what they have found out about this. Can this solve our problem? And no doubt some of the members who are watching this are on this protocol. So I think that's a really exciting development on validating the potential of blockchain. Other areas where blockchain is making a difference, so things like drug safety. So a blockchain provides a mechanism for transparency and quality and safety across all the steps of drug development and things like distribution. So there is an estimated 1 million people that die a year, which is incredible volume, from counterfeit drugs. So it is assumed that 10 to 30% of all drugs in developed countries are counterfeit. That's a huge amount. So we hope, and the aspiration is that blockchain can reduce this massively. It can provide much needed transparency to reduce this problem of counterfeit drugs, but also improve things like reporting, make it easier to report adverse effects and recalling faulty drug batches. So drug safety, a big potential area for blockchain technology. Supply chain management. Again, I was talking about the pandemic. So the use of blockchain has huge opportunities within pharma supply chain market. So, and that enables a kind of single view. If you look at the image on the bottom right, maybe today in some of the supply chains, it's a bit disjointed. We can't see across every point of the supply chain. So what blockchain does, and it's illustrated on this image on the bottom right, is provide this transparent view of where the drugs are. And this has a result of reducing things like counterfeit drugs. It improves the visibility. That's really important for senior business leaders in pharmaceutical companies to see where things are. And it can also provide and answer the challenges of regulatory compliance and the hope is to improve the speed, to improve the transparency, and reduce the better what's called cold chain shipping. So it's about embedding transparency and more efficiency into the current supply chain system. Clinical trials. Obviously, we know that clinical trials are hugely expensive, and the speed, the importance of clinical trials with this pandemic has been proven quite conclusively that that speed and precision is absolutely vital. So we're starting to see the emergence of blockchain in its potential to improve the efficiency, and it is an aspiration that blockchain, the technology behind being used in blockchain, could provide a consolidation of multiple stakeholders in a system. Obviously, that's a big challenge with clinical trials, is having all these different stakeholders, and blockchain provides a much better, transparent methodology to reach multiple different stakeholders and provide a transparent view. Data sharing and clinical trial execution. Really important is data sharing. Where is the data? We can do that on a blockchain by recording all the transactions, so we know, and they can't be tampered with, so we know exactly where the data is and who's being shared. We can have a private blockchain. Obviously, we know probably about the public blockchains like Bitcoin, for example, but this is about having a private blockchain, so we know how the data is being shared and we have control over it. So all stakeholders can run their own version. This is a protocol called smart contracts that is on the Ethereum blockchain. You're probably familiar with that. So we can provide this thing called a smart contract, and it is encoding basic functions into the terms of agreement between different stakeholders in the chain. So this is about permission blockchain. So ultimately, it's transparent, it's more efficient, and that's great news. So it's about, again, going back to the protocol, experimenting, see what works, and this is happening. And so in the context of the training, again, that we offer, we do think that blockchain has potential in this area. So this is about understanding it, learning it, and depending on the depth of knowledge and experience, it might be that you're a senior leader, that you just need to know what's going on in there. So that's a top level understanding. But if you are a programmer who needs a real in-depth understanding of how to develop a smart contract on Ethereum, for example, so we then provide templates to do that. So it's differing based on the level of experience and requirements. So as we were saying earlier, returning drugs authentically. So at any one time, 2 or 3% of all drugs are returned. This equates to something like, and this is US data, $7 to $10 billion. That's a huge amount. So drug supply is currently in the system a very wasteful part of the process. So things like incorrect prescriptions, purchase of unnecessary quantities, drug intolerance. So blockchain ledgers, a record of all these transactions, can provide much greater efficiency for unused drugs. But that's a key component of the blockchain, and something I think we're going to read more about in the future. This is another startup in the UK, medical chain. So they are exploring, investing in using the blockchain for healthcare professionals to access personal health data of records. If you imagine that, with a lot of HCPs now having to manage their patients remotely, because overnight they had to do so due to the pandemic, a blockchain can provide an easy way for them to access the personal data in a transparent, secure way. So this is what medical chain is really trying to explore, and the problem they're trying to solve. It is a really interesting area. So since May 2018, they've also announced the release of a new telemedicine platform. But again, this is an example of how startups are coming into the blockchain ecosystem and exploring how this technology can work in your therapy area. Maybe you've got a massive problem with supply chain. So one of the components of our training, again, is to try and reach out to these startups and really see what they're doing to give us inspiration if we don't have these types of skills or experience in-house. So it's about examining, pulling apart what they're doing and really seeing, could this work for us? What's the opportunity here? How quickly, what sort of investment would we need to make to really get some sort of validated findings from that investment? And so that's a quick overview of blockchain. And again, I believe it's got massive potential within the global pharma. And now we're going to look at immersive technology, virtual reality and augmented reality. So the two bits of technology I think you're probably going to read most about in healthcare and pharma are these two bits, headsets. On the left here, we have the Oculus Quest 2, which was launched about 18 months ago. It's a fantastic headset. I love it. And it retails at £399 for 64 gigabyte and £499 for 128 gigabyte. It's been quite groundbreaking because of its ease of use, because of its untendered liking, the fact that patients love using it. The price has come down and you're seeing multiple testing and applications in pharma. On the right here is the augmented HoloLens 2. The HoloLens 2 again is having really good feedback, launched by Microsoft, and this provides an augmented reality. It means that by wearing this headset, we can overlay information to what we are looking at. So if we're looking at a body or a skeleton, we can overlay data. So one of the key differences about VR and AR is virtual reality is a very solo experience. Augmented reality is not, and it allows an augmented overlay of digital images or data presented on top of the real world. You might have played with Pokemon, the mobile app, and seen it work in the consumer world with things like IKEA's groundbreaking app. But we're seeing this a lot more in Congress for HCPs learning about therapy areas and complexity and using data, and they can then use their hands to examine the data. Fantastic. I love this innovation. So HoloLens 2 a bit more expensive at £2,800, but we're seeing more and more pharma companies investing in this and getting really good results. And other areas where this technology can be used are areas like training and education. And why is this the case? So you look on the left here, it has fantastic retention of information. If you are trying to educate your staff internally or educate HCPs, then what you will notice is that the immersive potential of VR provides a deeper, richer context when you're explaining complexity. That has proven to dramatically improve retention of that information. So the biggest challenge I think we all face in the modern world is about distraction. So VR and AR provides an undistracted environment to visually engage your audience in very clever ways. And that, as a result, is providing a much greater retention of information. In the middle here, we're showing this use in apps, so you can rotate different body parts, really immersive, really incredible to watch this in a virtual environment if you've done so. And on the right here, I'm just showing you an image of Johnson & Johnson, who've been very clever. And if there's anyone from Johnson & Johnson, well done in this space. You've done a really good job. And you can see here an image of HCPs and nurses using VR for training in therapy areas. Great. A great use of this technology. Remember, we're only talking about a headset that costs £300. And we're living in this disrupted world. So giving them a VR headset, we could provide, potentially could be a cheaper way to communicate the potential of certain therapy areas. And this is a really exciting area. So I think we need to think about the training and education potential of this technology. And also, it provides enriched storytelling. So one of the ways in which we can use the technology is it enables new modes of storytelling, much more creative expression, and changing. It's really transforming the way in which we tell, we share, we remember stories. Seeing emotional patients who have been impacted by your therapy area can be a very powerful way to engage with HCPs. And it provides this intimacy, this engaging way for concentrated experiences. And this is really unleashing a huge amounts of creativity in storytelling. So if you are a pharma company who is exploring storytelling, this is a sort of technology that is a very good platform to do that. And of course it supports the omnichannel we'll talk about, supporting your omnichannel marketing. So if you need a tool that's going to support the omnichannel, AR and VR can do that very well by providing this seamless integration of consistent channel customer experiences. And that could be, if you look at the engagement channels, if you are meeting someone at Congress or you're meeting someone on social media, you can then support that communication by a seamless interaction through a VR headset. And this seamlessly can be integrated very cleverly. So more and more pharma companies are seeing the value of immersive technology as supporting the omnichannel marketing efforts. That's business critical. And as I was saying earlier, its real possibility is in this aspect of memorable engagements, remote memorable engagements. So AR in particular provides this incredible depth of engaging memorable information. You can see on that iPad there I'm showing you, you can provide contextual relevant data on top of what you are looking at. This is fantastic, and again, it's adding to the retention by providing a richer context of content around a therapy area. It's improving the retention of that information. That's a great benefit for this technology, and of course, again, coming back to the omnichannel, it's enhancing the customer experience by providing the HCP with a remote, rich experience. It improves the engagement, it brings the experience to life, helping inform HCPs in a compelling and deep engaging way. So it's got this fantastic ability to visualize structures and mechanisms that allow HCPs to gain a greater understanding. That's a hard thing to do in this this remote world that we're working in right now. This is just an example of AstraZeneca, who have experimented with using augmented virtual reality Congress. So they won an award for their holographic journey through the heart. I'm showing you here, developed by a company called Boxbear in 2019. They won a PM Society award for this. But the key thing is that it provided, what they found is that it provided a richer 3D holographic experience. So the HCP's got a better understanding of that therapy area, and they found, AstraZeneca found, that they were spending more time as a consequence on they're having a better experience. They're spending more time on their stand at Congress. So, it ticks a lot of journeys and a lot of commercial boxes, and it had great feedback. So that's, if you're a pharma company that invests a lot in Congress and you want a more immersive experience that is more seamless across your omnichannel marketing, that could be a great opportunity there. Gaming, we're seeing this explosion, in particular with the younger age groups, with the use of gaming. And this is just an example in Australia where gaming was used to educate and prevent skin cancer. So Australia, as we know, has some of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world, and they wanted to raise awareness to a younger audience, and they used gaming to do so by influencing the behavior of health-related campaigns through using VR and gamification. And it was quoted that gamification is great in terms of the mechanics, the experience, and design to engage and motivate and provide the necessary messages to this younger audience. So that had really, really good validated results for testing group using Octopus 2 at the University in Queensland for the 18 to 21. So if you're a pharma brand that are looking to clever ways to engage a young audience, that could be an opportunity. So, and one I haven't mentioned here is, of course, the metaverse. And Let's Learn Digital have created our own metaverse. It's in the early stages, and we hope to launch shortly our immersive training environment in a metaverse that we are creating with different. We're looking to create for different therapy areas, and it's being developed with a training partner to be announced. But if you're interested in that, I'd love to please reach out to me. So I'm going to just finish with a few final thoughts for you to think about. And again, these are themes that we do explore in our training, and I hope that today has been really valuable in understanding where I think the opportunity and value for training in digital and emerging tech lies in the future. Firstly, seeking inspiration from accelerators and startups. I think this is a really untapped opportunity right now for either engaging or just looking at what's going on. So this is just a couple in the UK that I write about. Digital Health London, it started 4 years ago. They invite 20 startups every year. It's fantastic, and they have some real success. NHS Clinical Entrepreneurs, of which I am a advisor, and I have a couple of startups as part of that program. And again, it's only been around for 3 years. It's been a very successful program. But by being part of that community, I can see where the trending technology is. I can see where AI is really making a difference in certain therapy areas. That's great insight. And KQ Labs, part of the Clink, Francis Crick Institute in London, they also have had they launched their accelerator 2 years ago. It's doing really well, really exciting. And they have, I think, 15 places every year, and it's a 5-month accelerator program for early stage startups. And it's very diverse, ranging from data, VR, all sorts of different types of startups. And increasingly, a lot of pharma companies are going to these environments. They're observing, they're partnering in meaningful ways. That gives them a window into the future. And I think that's a real opportunity in terms of the education and training, certainly from what we do, but also for any pharma companies that are looking to really accelerate their digitalization and innovation process. Engaging with small experiments, this is something we really do encourage, is cultivating small, fast experiments. It doesn't mean that they have to contravene any compliance. We can do that in a very controlled way. So that might, I'm just showing you examples on where we can do that. Creating learning Power BI and visualizing data, either or building an Alexa chatbot. So we know that Alexa Live every year allows us to do that. Even if you're a non-developer, you can do that. That gives us great insight into chatbots and AI. So you've got here on the bottom right the free Amazon conferences for non-text to build Alexa chatbots. So there are two ways in which we can experiment with, in small ways without without any problems. These are controlled small experiments, but it's orientating the minds of learners towards using these tools in meaningful ways. And so we do really push that. We set small experiments, we prod, and we encourage that, and that really makes a difference. Examining new business models, really important, is to really open people's minds to what is going on in other sectors. So, for example, subscription models, Babylon. That's when it launched, people were skeptical whether a subscription model could work, but it has been really successful. The user experience is fantastic for Babylon. I have loads of I'm not the user, I've tested it, but I have loads of positive feedback. Peloton bikes obviously did really well in the pandemic, and that's about the understanding the personalization of Peloton bikes and how they've integrated clever personalization. They've used personalized real-time emails. They've created a digital enabled community. So by examining these emerging businesses, we can actually extract bits and pieces that could work for us. So it's about understanding these emerging trends, because there could be an opportunity for us for our business. So those are three things I really want to finish with, and I hope that you found this really valuable. This is obviously just the tip of the iceberg of what we do at Let's Learn Digital. And lastly, and I'm saying this with a bit of a tongue in my cheek, using obviously a quality digital training partner is really important, and I'll leave this for you to ponder on, but really it's just a couple of case studies. So we as a business, we have proven experience in pharma and healthcare, in omnichannel customer experience. We're very future orientated. Our curriculum is based around what we believe are the most significant areas. So things like data, machine learning, the metaverse, the use of remote tools like translation tools, really important. We are also fully up to date with things like compliance. We have to do that. So innovation is a central part of what we do, and we also encourage and use lean, agile design thinking processes. So design thinking for exercises, for example, that's key to our training proposition. So if you do want to reach out to me, I'd love to hear from you, because we're offering for Giant Health attendees for this presentation a 20% discount for our 2022 curriculum. This is for minimal group size of 5. You can either reach out to me on this email address, or you can actually schedule a 15-minute appointment on this Calendly link that is going to be sent out to you, or you can call me if you want to schedule a time, and I'm happy to take a call. But I do wish you well. I hope that gave you a flavour. If you're a pharmaceutical company that does want to really update your workforce into a much more digital enabled customer culture, then we would love to have a chat with you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for listening.